2-acre field. They're saying rain all week, but we figured we'd try it. So I don't have any footage of cutting hay, but we have an awful lot of first cutting to go yet. But tedding hay is something that we've never really seen. My grandpa has never seen on these farms. Myself, last year was the first that we've ever tedded any hay. Myself, I really like it. It does allow the hay to dry out a little bit more thoroughly, more uniform. As you can see behind me, it tears up the windrows and lays them out flat. I don't want to say it shreds it, but it does. Pulls in the windrow and kind of throws it out, which is exactly what I want to see. Now the whole point of tedding is ideally to gain you at least 1 day of drying, as opposing to having to take 3 or 4 days to dry. Now, especially since we're not chopping any hay anymore, all the hay feed that we make for our cattle has to be round baled. And if you want round bales to stay and not mold and rot, because we don't wrap our bales, you have to have it really dry, which weather does play a big part in that. But Rhino Ag was so kindly enough to send us down this tedder, the PT 4119H. Really simple. I mean, it's really hard to not operate one of these properly. When we go to cut hay, typically in the past when we're going to bale it, we go through and we lay it out flat, and even at that there's still a mat of hay there, and it just still doesn't allow the sun to get all the way down to the ground and dry it out. Plus, like for this stuff, because we had a whole bunch of moisture here lately, when you have a stand of hay, grass, the sun can't get in down to the ground through that cover, and the ground is still wet. Now, hopefully with the video I can tie onto this video the action shots I have, because I have my other GoPro right there. You can see that we cut this hay in a windrow, and what that allowed it to do is that the ground was left exposed to the sides of the windrow, and seems how it was 98 degrees today. Very hot, very muggy. The top of the ground that was exposed to the sunlight and the wind, the breeze, dried out that ground, and has allowed us to go through and ted this out on dry ground. So now in the coming day or so, we should be able to make some fairly nice dry hay off this. Now the one thing I'm doing wrong that most people that have done tedding consistently, that have done it long enough, they can probably tell what I'm doing wrong, is that we cut this hay approximately 7 hours ago. And the problem is, in that amount of time, especially in the sun, the hay does start to dry out, and you are risking leaf loss by letting it dry down that long. What they typically recommended was to either wait up to 2 hours after you cut it and then ted it. That will reduce the amount of leaf loss you have. The other one that they recommended was to actually go through, cut everything down 1 day, let it lay until early the next morning if you're in a region that has a lot of dew, a lot of moisture in the area, in the air, and that would help reduce the amount of leaf loss you get if you go out and you ted it early the next morning. But I opted to go this route. I still think it works really well. We only raise beef cattle, so if we do lose some leaves, it's not the end of the world. My biggest concern is that we lose we're doing the beef cattle, I'm more worried about having forage to feed them throughout the winter. So if we lose a few leaves, a little bit of nutritional value, to me, the next guy may say something different, whoever beef producers that are out there, but I would rather have nice dry hay, even if I did have to risk losing a few leaves, and I can store this stuff properly. Now, as long as we don't get any rain on this stuff, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Now, as far as this tedder goes, it's a 4-rotor. Really simple. It only has 2 hydraulics. One SCV, selective control valve, raises the outside 2 rotors and folds them straight up so you can transport it. The second SCV controls your front and rear tilt. So say that this is the bar, it tilts the rotors ahead or backwards for how aggressive you want it to throw the hay. Also, it helps you as far as if it's not quite picking up the windrows, you can lean the tines in a little bit closer to the ground. The way I have them set right now, they're just touching the ground. They're just, you can just hardly see a little bit of dirt getting disturbed. I don't want to wear out these tines or anything. The goal is not to do tillage with this, which I'm not. But myself, as far as operating a tedder, they run really cheap. I know a certain YouTuber out there, I'm sure a lot of us know him, he prefers not to run a tedder, even though he will. But for his business, tedding really is a loss of money for him. For us, we need quality feed. I mean, really, beef cattle will pretty well eat whatever you put in front of them, but if you can avoid feeding them junk hay, I mean, that's preferred, right? But this is first crop. They're saying we have a few days of potential rain. That's why we didn't go all out cutting everything, because we do have a bunch of first crop cutting hay. And then we have a bunch of pasture grass, yes, pasture grass, that we will go through and make one cutting off of. That way we can feed it throughout winter, because honestly, when you see the cattle, they're not going to go through and eat it. We don't graze our pastures, so basically our cows will go through and graze it all off, or you have a lot of waste also because they don't like to eat the stems, or at least down to the ground like you prefer. So what happens is we go through and cut out those pastures, and you get that new growth coming up, and then they just go crazy for that new growth. We've actually seen them utilize the pastures a little bit better that way too. But just like that, this little field is done. This is only 2.5 acres. And this is, I couldn't even tell you the width of this thing right now. Maybe 15 feet. A larger one would be pretty nice, but the problem is I do use this for waterways also. And our waterways just so happen to be just as wide as this tedder. So it works out really, really well that way. And the field is, as you look at it, as I'm driving back out of here, I mean, it's nice, flat, uniform, it'll allow the sun to get the maximum amount of coverage on this hay. So when we do go back to rake it up again with that Rhino rake, we can go through and we can make some quality bales. So ideally, if it doesn't get any rain on it, we can get it dry. We'll be storing this stuff for feeding this winter. But I think it's time to call it quits. Not quits, I'm done. So until tomorrow, take care, take it easy, keep in touch. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.